There is a war happening right now. And most people don't even know they're in it. It isn't fought with weapons. It isn't announced. There are no declarations, no visible battlefields, no obvious enemies. It is fought through attention, through presence, through the quiet theft of what makes you capable. It is a war over your energy. And if you are reading this, you have probably been losing it for years without ever understanding why. You wake up already exhausted. You spend your day responding, reacting, adjusting. You try to be present for everyone. You give explanations you don't owe. You carry emotions that were never yours to carry. And by the time night comes, there is almost nothing left of you. Not for the things you actually want to build. Not for the version of yourself you keep promising you'll become. This is not weakness. This is what happens when a person hasn't yet understood one fundamental law of power. Energy is the real currency, not money, not status, not talent, energy. Because without it, none of those other things can be built, sustained, or protected. The people who operate at the highest levels, not the loudest, not the most popular, but the ones who actually construct lives of consequence. They understand this with a precision that borders on ruthlessness. They have learned, often through painful experience, that their energy is not a gift to be distributed freely. It is a strategic resource to be allocated with cold deliberation. What follows are 5 ways they protect it, not 5 affirmations, not 5 feel-good habits. 5 disciplines built on psychological reality that separate those who are consumed by the world from those who learn to move through it untouched. Pay attention. Way 1. The silent drain. Most people believe that their greatest threats come from outside, from enemies, from competition, from those who wish them harm. This is a comfortable illusion because it places the source of your exhaustion somewhere outside your control. But the most sophisticated psychological drain on your energy rarely comes from enemies. It comes from people who like you, the people who call often, the ones who share everything, the ones who need your opinion, your validation, your presence, your emotional labor. They are not malicious. That is precisely what makes this so difficult to name. They are simply unconscious. And unconscious people are some of the most powerful extractors of energy that exist, because they operate without guilt and without end. Carl Jung understood this. The unconscious has no sense of proportion. It takes without measuring, gives without awareness, and moves through relationships like a current, pulling everything toward its own unresolved depths. When you are in proximity to someone who has not done their inner work, they will, without intending to, use you as a container for everything they cannot hold themselves. And here's the dangerous part. You will let them, because you were taught that availability is virtue, that being needed is being valued, that saying yes is being kind, and saying no is being cold. The moment you understand this, everything changes. Energy protection begins not with grand gestures, but with a single quiet reorientation. You stop treating access to yourself as something that must be constantly justified, to withhold. Successful people do not explain their unavailability. They do not apologize for their silence. They move through the world with a boundary that is not a wall built from fear, but a perimeter maintained by discipline. They have learned to distinguish between the people who add to their capacity and the people who subtract from it, and they allocate themselves accordingly, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Because a person who is depleted cannot build anything, And a person who cannot build anything is of no use to anyone, including those they love. Way 2. The reactive trap. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that words almost never reach. It is not physical tiredness. It is not even emotional heaviness. It is the exhaustion that comes from living in permanent reaction. From the moment most people wake up, they are already responding. To notifications, to expectations, to the ambient noise of other people's urgencies. Their minds are never allowed to settle into their own frequency. They are perpetually calibrated to the outside world, and over time, this rewires something fundamental. They lose the ability to initiate. They can only react. And reaction, by definition, means someone else is always controlling the frame. Sun Tzu wrote that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Translated into the psychology of daily life, this means that the most powerful position is never the reactive one. It is the one who defines the terrain, sets the tempo, chooses the moment. The one who has already decided before others begin demanding. Successful people protect their energy by protecting their initiation. They guard the first hours of the day with a severity that most people find strange. They do not begin in response. They begin in creation, in thought, in deliberate construction of the internal landscape before the external one rushes in. This is not productivity advice. This is a statement about sovereignty. Because the mind that begins each day on its own terms is a fundamentally different instrument than the mind that begins each day scrambling. The first is a mind that generates. The second is a mind that processes the demands of others, forever. Most people never realize this. They optimize their response time. They streamline their notifications. They build better systems for managing incoming information. But they never ask the more dangerous question: what would I be capable of if I stopped letting the world write the first sentence of my day? The answer to that question is what separates those who consume others' visions from those who build their own. Way 3. The cost of expectation. Schopenhauer observed that the greatest source of human suffering is not pain itself, but the mismatch between what we expect and what reality delivers. Most people carry around a set of invisible contracts. Expectations they have never articulated, promises they believe were made without words, and they spend enormous energy managing the grief and frustration of a world that keeps breaking those contracts. You expected appreciation. You expected reciprocity. You expected that effort would be noticed, that loyalty would be returned, that sincerity would be met with sincerity. And every time reality contradicts this expectation, something is spent. Something is pulled from the reserve you need to think clearly, to act strategically, to maintain the composure that power requires. This is where people lose power, not in dramatic betrayals, but in the slow hemorrhage of unmet expectations, in the daily friction of wanting the world to be different from what it is. The Stoics named this clearly, though they said it in a language that has lost its edge through overuse. What they meant, stripped of comfort, is that the world is not organized around your narrative. People are not playing the role you assigned them. Events do not follow the arc you projected, and spending energy on the gap between the story you expected and the reality you received is a form of self-impoverishment that compounds over time. Successful people do not become cynics. Cynicism is still reactive. It is disappointment that has hardened, expectation that has turned cruel. What they become is something colder and more useful, accurate. They develop a ruthlessly realistic model of human behavior, not pessimistic, not hopeful, accurate, They expect people to act in accordance with their nature, not their potential. They expect institutions to serve their own interests. They expect reality to be indifferent, and from that foundation, nothing is wasted on surprise. Because once you stop being surprised by human nature, you stop being depleted by it. You begin to see behavior for what it is, respond to what is actually in front of you, and preserve the energy that would otherwise vanish into the endless project of hoping people will be different. Way 4. The price of performance. There is a behavior that is almost universal among people who are running on empty, and it is so normalized that most of them never identify it as a problem. They perform, not on stage, not in front of cameras, in ordinary life, in conversations, in rooms where no one is watching. They perform competence, perform calm, perform certainty, perform happiness, perform strength. They construct a version of themselves for every social context, and they spend enormous energy maintaining that construction. Nietzsche called it the will to appear, and he understood, with uncomfortable precision, that most of what people call their personality is a costume, assembled not from genuine self-knowledge, but from a desire to be seen in a particular way. The tragedy is not the dishonesty. The tragedy is the cost, because maintaining a persona is metabolically expensive, not physically, psychologically. The mind that is always monitoring how it is perceived, always adjusting, always editing, is a mind that is perpetually divided. Part of it is present. The rest of it is watching itself be present. And that division is one of the most exhausting states a human being can inhabit. Jung called the unexamined persona the first layer of the shadow. What you suppress to appear acceptable does not disappear. It accumulates. It becomes weight. And people who carry that weight often mistake it for the heaviness of a difficult life, when it is actually the heaviness of an unlived one. Successful people, the ones who operate with genuine power, not performed power, develop what might be called psychological coherence. Their internal experience and their external presentation are not identical, but they are not in constant war either. They know what they value. They know what they will not do. They have negotiated a relationship with their own nature that does not require constant maintenance, because it is built on something real. This is not radical authenticity. It is not the invitation to be transparent about every feeling, in every room. It is the discipline of not performing what you do not believe, not constructing a version of yourself that requires more energy to sustain than it was worth to build. And once you stop performing, a remarkable thing happens. The energy that was locked in that performance becomes available for actual work, for actual thought, for the quiet, unremarked upon construction of something that lasts. Way 5. The power of disengagement. The fifth way is the one that costs the most to learn, because it runs directly against everything you were taught about how to be a good person. You were taught to resolve things, to address conflicts, to explain yourself, to seek understanding, to close loops. You were taught that unfinished relational business is a moral failure, and that the right response to tension is always engagement, always more conversation, always another attempt to be understood. And the world has exploited this teaching with remarkable efficiency. There are people, and you know who they are, who do not engage in good faith, who interpret your willingness to explain as weakness, who use your desire for resolution as leverage, who take your sincere attempt at communication and convert it into a new surface to push against. These people are not broken. They are operating exactly as their psychology dictates, and engaging them at their own level is not brave. It is expensive. Machiavelli understood, with the cold clarity of a man who watched power operate without illusion, that not every conflict deserves a response. That sometimes the most powerful position is not the one that defeats the challenge, but the one that never acknowledges it was a challenge at all. Silence, wielded strategically, is not avoidance. It is the refusal to accept the terms of an engagement that was designed to cost you more than it costs them. Successful people learn to stop seeking resolution with people who are not interested in resolution. They learn to stop explaining themselves to people who are not asking in good faith. They learn to distinguish between the situations that require their engagement and the ones that only require their energy. This is not detachment in the romantic spiritual sense. This is tactical withdrawal. It is the recognition that not every battle won is worth the energy spent winning it. That sometimes the most strategic move is to simply not enter the field. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand how much energy is consumed not by genuine challenges, but by the low-level friction of people who benefit from your reactivity. The relationships, the arguments, the need to be understood by those who will never try to understand you. You begin to make very different choices about where you direct yourself. You become quietly unreachable by things that used to undo you. Everything you just encountered points toward a single convergence. Energy is not managed through systems or schedules or the optimization of your calendar. It is protected through perception, through the willingness to see reality, human behavior, social dynamics, your own psychology, without the comfortable distortion of what you wish things were. The people who operate at the highest levels are not superhuman. They are not without emotion or vulnerability or need. What separates them is a kind of earned clarity. They have looked at the mechanisms of their own depletion and refused to pretend they don't exist. They have made the uncomfortable choice to prioritize their capacity over their likability, their depth over their availability, their construction over their performance. This is not the beginning of coldness. It is the beginning of precision. You do not become powerful by taking more. You become powerful by leaking less, by understanding, with the quiet conviction of someone who has seen the mechanism, that every unnecessary expenditure of energy is a tax on who you are still capable of becoming. The world will not stop demanding. People will not stop taking. The noise will not quiet itself on your behalf. But you, the version of you that is watching this, that is recognizing something it has felt for a long time without having words for it, you can begin to move differently, not louder, not harder, quieter, sharper, more deliberate. And in that deliberateness, more powerful than you have ever been.